Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from April Dawn Bennett. And recently we did a vlog on the idea that conspiracy theories might be unusually prevalent in the metaphysical community. And if you would like to see what I said to that, look at recent vlogs and you'll certainly find it. April Dawn has a follow-up question to this vlog. And that is, what about the prevalence of delusional people in the higher ranks of the metaphysical community? Do I believe that this is a thing? And if so, what can we do about it? And I have a few things to say in regard to this question. And the first is that I think that as pagans and spiritual people in general and magical people, we need to be rather careful of that word delusional. I, for example, believe in magic. I believe in spells, I believe in psychic readings and psychic abilities, I believe in the auras and meridians and chakras and all this good stuff. And among my circle of friends, none of this is unusual. But I know that if I go a little farther out into the wider community, every one of those things is going to strike someone as being delusional. Therefore, I think it's very important for us to keep in mind that just as most of us have ideas that are at variance from the wider community, other members of our community also have ideas that may be at variance from our own. And we must remember that we would be the first to say that merely because our ideas are at variance from that wider community does not mean they are necessarily wrong. And this is also true for people whose ideas are at variance from our own. Mary Ann Kay coined a phrase, reality bigot, which referred to a person who had alternative ideas of the universe that they expected to be taken seriously, but were not willing to take seriously other people's differing eccentric ideas of the universe. And I think that this tends to be a problem in our metaphysical community. As for delusional people, I think again we must be careful of what we mean by that, and although certainly there are people that I would put under that heading, I don't think they're particularly prominent in the higher ranking members of our community. Are they prominent in the community? Well, I don't think they're really prominent, but they're certainly present. But in the higher ranking members of the community, as I would understand that term, I think that we have people who certainly do have metaphysical beliefs because it is a metaphysical community, but I wouldn't consider them delusional. And I'm hard-pressed to think of anyone that I would consider to be in the higher ranks of the community that I would use that word to describe. And if I could think of one, I certainly wouldn't say it publicly. But in fact, I'm hard-pressed to think of anyone who would fit that. I can think of people who exhibit bad behaviors, but that's an entirely different thing. But that I would consider delusional, I think I would say no. There are certainly people who reach different conclusions from their experiences than I would reach from the same experiences. But that doesn't make them delusional. It just means that they have reached different conclusions. However, I would say that it would probably depend who April Dawn actually means in making this question, what my answer would be to it, but she did not indicate anyone in particular. And her idea of what constitutes the higher ranks of the community might be different from my own. There certainly are some people in the community who might be said to be delusional, but I don't think they're excessively numerous, and as a general rule, I don't think you find them in the higher ranks of the community, though they themselves may think they are. And that brings us back to the question, what constitutes the higher ranks of the community? And that definitely influences the answer to this question, and I'm thinking of those people who are highly placed in specific traditions as being the higher ranks of the community. And I think that most of the traditions are fairly well run by level-headed people. And there are certainly some people who have a great deal of notoriety or maybe highly placed in certain traditions who do exhibit bad behaviors, but that's not the same thing as being delusional. That is a matter of how one behaves, not what one perceives or believes. Again, I think we have to be very careful what we consider to be delusional, and bear in mind that our entire community is based on the acceptance of ideas that other parts of the wider society reject. And while we may not agree with everyone's understanding of their own experiences, I think that we must be very careful in denying their experiences. For example, there are a lot of people who think they have had horrible demons come into their life, but you listen to the story, and it sounds a lot more like a poltergeist. But in saying that, I do not deny they had an experience, although in some cases they may have other motivations for telling the story, but in most cases I think they had a legitimate experience that frightened them and that they misinterpreted. But that doesn't mean they were delusional. It means they reached a different conclusion than I would reach, and would therefore have handled it in a different way than I would have handled it. And I think we must be very conscious of not rejecting different ideas in the same way that the wider society commonly rejects our own, regardless of what branch of the metaphysical community we belong to, because pretty much all of them are rejected by at least some part of the wider society. So having said all of that, no, I don't think that delusional people are unusually common in the higher ranks of our community. Are they present in our community? Yes, but they're present in all communities, and they may be able to get a little farther in our community than in some because there are so few central organizations. But when we start talking about the higher reaches of the community, it's another matter, and I don't think it's in itself particularly a problem, and I don't think it's very common to find delusional people in higher offices within the community. So those would be my thoughts on the matter. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you for Pagans Tonight Radio. Pagans Tonight Radio is an online radio network with different hosts and different shows 7 nights a week. There's something for every taste, including Spanish language programming on Saturday evening. Check out paganstonight.com today.